RebelRooster modeling viewers, how about part 2 of the Academy Zero? And at the end, I'll give you a little bit of a photographic essay of the build process. See you there.
Something I want to point out about the masks on this thing too. Not only do they fit incredibly well, I just got to push these corners out where I used a dull knife, but these fit the frames about as good as, or maybe even better than, the Edward masks I've been using. But something I like about this, and a few manufacturers are starting to do this, is they put a little texture on the part that gets painted. Just a little bit. Not enough to stake up and have bumps, but to make that glass look extra glassy once you've painted it. It doesn't have all the same, I don't know, surface texture, surface appearance. So your windows look a little glassier. Because they don't have the same level of reflectivity, I guess you could say, about the frames and everything do. So that's something else that I like about this thing. Here it is right now, moving right along. I've got the flight control surfaces on, and it's coming along nicely, so it shouldn't be too much longer. Okay, one more area that you may have a little trouble with here is when you look inside the case of the engine. Let me back this up so you can see it a little better with some light. There's a tab, like most engines, right there that fits into a groove on the front of the forward cylinder bank right here. But if you put those in to where they match each other perfectly, and I'll put that at 3 o'clock and this at 3 o'clock, and then I slide it in, let me zoom in again, you're going to see an ever so slight misalignment, which viewed head on in the cal is probably not going to stick out, but if you know what it should look like, it's going to kind of make you, it's going to drive you up a wall. So you can see that, let me fit this in a little better, like there, when it's done. Here you go. You can see that the rods are just a little off where they should be. They should be touching each other here, like right there should be touching. So the solution is just to go in there with your nippers, your knife, whatever your hands will let you do without hurting yourself. Just cut that tab out. And by doing that, which is what I did in secret off camera, and let me just make it right, and then it will line up like you'd like it to. So there you go. If I can get this to zoom in and behave itself, maybe I'll zoom out and move closer. There, you can see it can be moved. So you can put it in position once you put it on there to where they fit in better. Of course, I got ham hands and a cheap phone, but you get the idea. That's another little thing you'll want to do to work with on the engine. Okay, another little thing on the engine here. So you've got this poly cap that fits inside of here. This little poly cap, you can see it. It's what the shaft goes in. It goes in nicely. Then you're going to get the other cylinder bank, and you're going to see it's got a little tab on it where that fits in together. Right here. See that? And you're going to, of course, look for something, you know, like this. But you're not going to find it on the other side where it goes together. You see what I'm talking about? Here's the side with the tab, and it should fit in here because the back ends are both hollowed out. That kind of helps. Actually, it's not my favorite thing on engines, but it kind of helps you get it from going the wrong way. But you're looking for that little spot for that tab to go in. And you're probably looking for it in here on the inside, but it's not there. Where you're going to find that is you're going to see every cylinder has a solid fill ring around it except for this one right here. And that is where this little tab right here goes. If you don't notice that, it's going to be easy to get really pissed at this engine or waste a lot of time trying to get it to come together. So there's another little thing to look for. All right, let me show you a couple other things I kind of like about this thing. This isn't something unique. There's other model companies do this, but for Academy, this is just really unusual. I like the way the propeller assembles. That's kind of neat, but I like that you can have the counterweights in the spring and oil piston that change the pitch of the propeller and maintain the RPM. visible if you choose not to put the spinner on it. But what I especially like is that the spinner fits inside. I shouldn't say the spinner, the back plate fits inside the spinner here, like so. After I finish banging it around so you can't see it. So instead of having a line going right down in the most annoying place right here, and then you have to sand it smooth and everything, it fits back here inside, so it's not a problem. So I like that about it. Something else kind of neat about this thing, I like the way the exhausts are on this. If you look, let me point this out with my pointing pencil so it zooms in. This is the best exhaust system for an A6M2 I've ever seen, because you either have that bottom with just the molded in detail, which you can drill a hole in it and make it look a little better, but it just doesn't look right, or you got the chopped off pipe that doesn't really go anywhere and it's left with a gap there. But with this one, it's really neat because you actually fit the pipe inside the exhaust like that, and then it fits up against it in here. So it's really a good looking exhaust. The engine doesn't look too bad. Inside the decal you don't get to see much, but this one's got a pretty good engine, and having those push rods actually, I should say the rods actually adds to it. So anyway, let's move right along. Okay, here's the completed tail repair. You see there's still a couple small areas that may give me a little trouble later on, like right in here. It's not totally done, but I'm on a deadline here, so I got to move a little quick. But overall, the tail repair didn't take too long. I'd say this took me about, and you can see where the, let me put this up here, and you can see with my pointing pencil a little better. You can see underneath here where that comes together. It's not quite perfect, but it's the underside, and generally speaking, even on my stuff I really work hard on, I don't put too much effort on the bottom. So the top's where it's going to matter, so I've got that pretty well taken care of, but it's all set to be repaired. Let's see how it comes out. Okay, we are almost done with this thing. Well, at least we got the major components done. Let's take a look at some of the things that come up here as you work on it. Overall, so far, it's been an absolute delight to build. The fits have been really good. A couple trouble spots you might have, excuse me, on the top side is where this is actually a fitting here that goes like this. Let me zoom out a little bit. There we go, like so. And I had to do some filling, quite a bit of filling actually here. I still got a little tiny spot to fix right there, and another tiny spot to fix right there, and a little bit of cannon scratch there I did with the knife by accident. Overall, everything else been good. The wings fit really nicely. Really nice fuselage to wing fitting on the bottom. There is actually supposed to be a line there from all the pictures and diagrams I have, so I made sure that was deep enough to show up. The fit along here has been really good. You can see I got a little blob right where the wheel starts. I got to sand that out smooth. The only place that's really been kind of troublesome has been the tail. This tail wheel area. Let me turn it up this way and see if I can get it to be still for you. There we go. It fits where you can see I put the sprue go to fill this in right there, and along the bottom like so. And then along the top right here, let me get that out of the shadow, maybe I can do a little better. There you go, you can see it better now. And right here. These areas needed some sprue goo, and I suspect it might have just been bad cutting on my part that made this happen that way. Excuse me. A little under the weather today. Sick just in time to go to work for Christmas. But anyway, the wing to fuselage fit is nice. I didn't have to do anything with this except cement it. And another little spot you might have just a hair of trouble with is getting the wing and the fuselage to close, particularly up here in the front. Because the cockpit, if you don't have it in there just right, it's going to be in the way of this coming down. And really, those are the only things, and they weren't huge pains, it just took a little work, and it may have been, just like I said, bad cutting or something I did on my part. And I'm really grasping it. I'm really grasping for things, if that's the best I can come up with for problem areas. It's been really a trouble-free model so far. So basically I'm down to the engine cowl, flight control surfaces, and landing gear, and I'll be done. But so far it's been really, really good. You can see you're gonna have no riveting to do on this thing at all. It's already done for you. The seam along the fuselage is practically non-existent. It took, I really hope I can get this to show. You can see the two rivet lines on the side, one here and one there, but the seam itself along the fuselage really doesn't show up. And it took, all I did was sand, there's no filling there. Same along the bottom. It's been really a nice fit. Tops and bottoms of the horizontal stabilizers fit well. This is just a quick build, so I'm not going to go smoothing those up perfectly, but it would certainly be easy had I chose to do that. The cockpit, once I'm uncovered, we can get to look at that if I didn't already go through it. But anyway, here's where it is right now. The color, I took the mission models as the base template. Even though their paints have their issues, their color accuracy is reputed to be among the best, if not the best. So I made my own custom mix here out of RC303 by AK, some off-white Tamiya that I mixed together, and a touch of khaki and some semi-gloss to make it match this perfectly. So it's a perfect color match, so that should be a good one done there. Okay, so again, here it is finished. I made my own mix to get the Japanese gray, the Japanese gray color for it. The amber gray, I believe is what it's called. I just mixed a little bit of RC303 with some off-white that I also mixed myself with different whites and grays. And I was guided to the right color accuracy by a friend of mine up in Canada. Thanks, Woody. I appreciate that. And that really was the toughest part of the Zero, was getting the right color, honestly. As you know, the fabric surfaces were a different type of gray. But let's take a look at this thing first. I'll start from the front and work my way back. I mentioned on the propeller, I really liked the way that they had the hub fit inside of the spinner. So you see where the hub and the spinner on the real airplane would be, but it doesn't have that ugly, thick line, that big, thick gap where the two fit together like you do on, well, all the other Zeros. Here's that color I was telling you about, how the back was propeller color, as they call it. It's a dark brown. For you Tamiya users, the XF9 whole red is pretty good for that. And then the propeller itself was polished metal, and the spinner is silver lacquer color. The cowling was a beautiful fit. You can have open or closed cowls, separate pieces for both. They both came together nicely. The engine is really nice inside there. It's tough to tell because I've got this thing, the way the lighting is going, you can't see in there, but they do give you a pretty nice little engine for it. It's got the hollow backs on the cylinder banks, which you don't see anyway, but yeah, I just kind of, that's the one little thing I would have done. I'd have had that filled all the way through, even if you couldn't see the back of it. These are empty here, so it's not just recessed plastic, it's actually empty, which is really a nice touch. Same with the ejection ports for the cartridges that shot through the nose guns. They've got some of you really critical Japanese aircraft guys, you'll know, you're going to rejoice that they actually do have the right shape on both of these. I did misalign the decal on that, damn it. But here's the trouble I was telling you about with the forward canopy. I had to use some filler here, which of course it sunk back in after I painted it. And the fit here, there's actually a recess for this to go into, and whatever I did up here, I don't know if I had the fitting of the panel in here wrong or what, but it didn't go on as well as the rest of it did. And I'm going to attribute that to my own error because, like I said, the rest of this thing just went together so well it couldn't have been a problem of theirs. Speaking of the canopy, the aft canopy comes up pretty much flush like it did, and that's really nice because a lot of them usually see that big step where this looks like it's sitting on top of the fuselage. They've got the what's really nice is you could put the antenna in after you've put the canopy on. I was a big fan of that, and I'm especially a big fan of that they actually have the sliding canopy wide enough to go over the aft canopy and not sitting on top of it
and this actually fits inside these tracks. So if you hadn't glued it in like I did, you could slide it back and forth and reposition it at will. The cockpit itself, let me move this thing. Close your eyes, you're gonna get seasick while I do this. The cockpit itself, I hope the light will show this. Let me try my flashlight, might give us a little hand here. The cockpit itself is really nice. They did a really good job. Like it was a little over 35 pieces. It was really, really fun to assemble. Even the gun sight fit in there beautifully, and that's a pain point with other manufacturers a lot. But they give you the seat with the holes in it. You don't have to go drilling those out yourself. And the mask for the canopy was really nice. It was even better than the Edward masks. I've never had one that goes right up to the frame so perfectly as this one did. If I can get a canopy looking this good, you know somebody did something right, and it wasn't me. Getting to the wings. Now this was an early 0. I did this as a Pearl Harbor bird, so the weathering on it is very light. Just a few small chips here and there you'll see. Very light, whoops, well, I had to break something. I could fix that later though. But anyway, very light powdering where the guns were shot. But look at here. If I can get that to focus and if you can see it, I love how they got that gun sticking out. It's actually hollow. I don't know how they did it. And the fit from this, I mean, look at that, is just about as good as anybody's made. And by the way, I didn't, except for right here and a little bit on the tail wheel area, there is no filler on this thing at all. It's just lightly sanded and painted. I just wanted it to look like it's going to look coming out of the box. And again, just a little couple light chips here, and I kind of banged it around on the way home, so I got a little split there. But the fit on the leading edges was so easy and so nice. You can see along here, there's just no crease, nothing. The pitot tube fit nicely. The folding wings fit beautifully. And I love that they gave you a clear part for the navigation lights. And something I did with it, I hope I can get this to focus in nicely, is I just drilled a little tiny hole back from the corner on it and then pushed a little paint into it. Maybe this angle will show you better. There you go, you can see it better here. So I just drilled a little tiny hole back there and pushed some paint into it with a toothpick. And you know, you can sand that smooth. I just thought it looked okay like it was because I was doing this against the clock. And this is kind of showing you the detail while you're looking at it. The detail in this kit is remarkable. And so people are talking about dimpling, or there's spots on here. I don't know what in the Sam hell they're talking about. This is really good plastic. Very un-Academy so far. I was really happy with it. So I made my way to the fuselage fit. Again, beautiful fit. The only thing you'll see is I got a little wobbly with the riveting wheel right here. But otherwise, the fit on this is beautiful. Just a little bit of light sanding here, and you can see there's no seam going down the middle. This was about the best. Now remember, this does exist. A lot of people say not smooth, but this does exist. But this is the best fit fuselage to wing that I've ever seen on anybody's 48th Zero. I mean, look right here. That's it. I could have pushed this down a little harder and that would have been snug. Like this side, it turned out well, like it should have. Where's my pencil tip? There it is. And the wing fit to the fuselage, just, I mean, so beautiful it could make a grown man cry. Look at that. No trouble at all, top or bottom. The fit here, this is another area that you usually have a lot of trouble with, a lot of zeros, and you didn't here. The fit from here where the wing meets the fuselage, no trouble whatsoever. Just a beautiful fit, very nice. Working along to the back to the horizontal stabs, you usually have your choice. Do I want it to look good on the top, or do I want it to look good on the bottom? And you didn't have to make that choice here. Now remember, this little space does exist on the airplane, so And it's going to look a little exaggerated here because of the angles and everything, but when I move it to where it should be, you can see it actually is a very fine fit, top and bottom. No filler. It's just that, it was just that good, that easy. While we're on the subject of the bottom, I love that the ejection ports for the gun shells was empty on the bottom as well. The inside detail on the wheel wells was really, really nice. And the horseshoe fitting again to the interior gear door, fantastic, just wonderful. And let me turn this way. And again, I mentioned the alignment. There is no way, well, I'm sure somebody out there is going to do it, but generally it's very hard to misalign the landing gear the way they've designed this. So this is something that if you're going to use this as a contest model, and honestly, I probably would recommend that, you're not going to have a problem with the judges and their flashlights and everything looking at the wheels. These align beautifully. Looking at them from the top, from the front, from the sides, no matter which angle you do it. It was very well done. And the exact same with the horizontal stabs. You won't have one higher than the other. It just was wonderful. The flap fitting was really good. You do have an ejection mark right here that you'll want to pay attention to, and there's another one here. And the tail wheel assembly, they made it a separate part, and it really went nicely here. But when I got to here, I had a lot of trouble getting that to fit right. And I'm going to attribute that again to myself having done something, I don't know what, but something wrong. Now, what they could have done better, in my opinion, and you know, generally that of pretty much everybody who pays attention to it, the recesses in the fabric flight control surfaces is far too deep. I would recommend you get a little bit of Mr. Surfacer 500 or, you know, maybe Mr. Dissolved Putty or some Surfacer 500 and just make these a little filled in somewhat. I would have liked clear navigation lights on the tops. And, well, honestly, that's about it, everybody. Everything else in this thing was wonderful. Everything, it doesn't fall together like a Tamiya kit does. I mean, it fits perfectly. It fits better in a number of places, better than Tamiya's did, but it won't fall together. You need a fine touch, especially in the cockpit with some of these things. You need a fine touch. You need to pay attention to what you're doing. And if you do, you will be rewarded. The gun sight on this thing was great. It doesn't have that line running down the middle like a lot of them did that you have to sand smooth. The decals, I decided to use decals on this instead of, and there I go breaking another thing. I decided to use decals on this instead of painting because I wanted this to be a true out-of-box representation. So far as the decals go, my only complaints are that they are very, very shiny. So I had to hit them with a lot of semi-gloss to tone them down a little bit. But they do go down. They hunker down very tightly, as you can see here. They trim it right to the edge, so there's no film sticking over the side where the color ends. And they love their surface. I mean, look at that. All I did was use a little bit of Tamiya Mark Fit Super Strong. And because I used that, and because these decals are thin, make sure you have them where you want them when you place them because they won't move. I mean, they're going to make themselves at home. You look at this rudder. I didn't cut that. It just went in there, you know. No silvering. They, you don't have to put a gloss coat on or anything silly like that. I mean, they just go right on there, and they just really, like I said, they make themselves at home. You can see where they even go into the rivet recesses. There's just a little bit, I guess if I hit the light just right, you can see a little bit of the carrier film right in here. But when you look at it from the casual distance, even with these intense daylight bulbs, it just looks good. They're just a little shiny for my taste. That's the only thing with them. And that's pretty much it on here. I'll just walk it around a little bit and let you see the detail on it again. You can see how fine these rivets are. They're recessed where they should be recessed. They're out where they should be out. It's just really, really nice. I gave it a little bit of chip beating on the wing root here where you'd expect to see it. and a little bit over here where the steps pop out, you know, the retractable steps. Even these decals, it comes in 3P. I cut this one into 2 like that. So you have 1, 2, and then this is the third. They don't roll up on themselves and bunch up. Now, it's an Academy kit, and their decals do the usual thing. If you leave them in the water too long, they start curling at the edges. So what I stuck them in some lukewarm water, a little warmer than room temperature. I let them in there for 15 seconds. I put them on the paper towel, and 15 seconds later, they were able to be rolled around on the towel and removed, and they went right on. They just put themselves right at home. Just a really, really good kit. Very un-Academy. I would say right now, I haven't built the Edward yet. It's sitting there in the bullpen ready to go. But I will say, even against the, to me, as newest A6M2, even against that one, this is my favorite Zero I've ever built. It has been an absolute, I hate to use the word joy, but it has been an absolute joy. And for you guys who are, you know, suffering from the loss of mojo or whatever it's called, you're getting tired of models, you're tired of building, this will bring it right back to life for you. This is a model that will bring you right back to life. Really nice airplane, really everything's nice about it. Like I said, no complaints. A couple things I would have done differently, but nothing that I'd say I got any angst from. So that's the rundown on the Academy 148th A6M2 Type 210.